And we're live. Welcome to the Peter Repeater episode 2. I am your host, Peter Newing, and preparing for this podcast, I have listened to a podcast, Joe Rogan podcast style, and what I've learned from that is a number of things. One is that it's a lot easier to talk when you've got two people talking to each other, because then when the other person is talking you can stop to think about your life and consider what it might be the best thing to say. But apart from that, I also learned that it's good to have something to talk about and have a general topic rather than talking for talking's sake. So I'll try to cover a number of topics in this scenario, and hopefully if you have any comments or thoughts, there's the live chat for those interested. But for the moment, it's just me and the camera. I'm trying out a slightly different setup. I don't even know if things are horizontal or anything, 'cause it seems to be working quite well. But yeah, I've been give you a little update. I've been writing a book today and other days, and it's been a real thing of real part of my day, and I haven't got anywhere near finishing the book yet. So I'm trying to finish the book, and there's this guy on the Joe Rogan podcast called Steven Pinker, and he's like a Harvard professor, and he's written like 9 books, and all he ever does is say, well, in my book it says this. And he referenced his book. He's referenced more than one of his books. He just kept referencing his book, and I feel there is an untapped world where people reference books that they have written a ridiculous amount, and I think that it can just be a little bit much at times. I'm just noticing that the heating's on, so things are getting a little toasty. I should probably sort that out, but needs must, I would say. Let's put on some music. You know what? It's so hot. I don't need to abandon this podcast so early on. Let's just take the jumper off. And it's being like in the Mediterranean, it's just toasty. It's like having a fire or something. But yeah, this is me. And yeah, people always mention the books that they've written, and they never stop. It's just quite remarkable, to be honest. And no doubt, if I've written a book, I'll be like, go look at my book online. It's really a good place. You know that paragraph where I spoke about this. It's just, I don't even know if I'm qualified to write books, because you have to have an editor, and you have to publish it, and you have to write loads more when it goes through the improvement process to become a better product. But I'm just struggling to write a number of words which makes a substantial book size. Just getting to that number of words is my aim, and I don't know if people read the book. I've got one potential reader, my dad, looking like he might read my book. But yeah, just getting, what am I on? 22,000 words, and I'm trying to get to 70,000 words. And the 70,000 is a little arbitrary, but it just means that I have a nice number of chapters. I have 10 chapters a day for every 1,000 words in 10 weeks. So it's 70 days, 10 chapters, 70,000 words, and that will be like a book size, and then I can re-establish what I think about the book and what I think about I could just have a book and then I would just keep referring to my book. Have you noticed this in my book? Have you read up on the latest material? And in my book, just read my book. It's just really not that hard. Just read it, please. I haven't written it yet, but that's gonna be me for the rest of my life, or I won't finish the book and it will just be something else that I had to go at. I'm definitely going through a book writing phase that's lasted 3 weeks so far. It's lasted a long time, just a very, very long time. And I just keep on writing 22 days in a row. I'm trying to get to 70 days. That's all I want. 22 days. But I suppose things aren't too bad. I've got my life outside of writing the book, and I've got my life inside writing the book, and the day-to-day happenings of stuff. I always have something I like to write about, and yeah. So topics of conversations that I can have on here. The podcast I was listening to, apart from this guy going on about his book, is how the world is just so focused on social media, and how that seems to be the be all and end all of everything. And it's just people spend so much time on social media, and do you know, I listen to some of this stuff and I understand what they're saying. I can't repeat it in my mind. Like, we live in a world with a lot of ideologies, a lot of radical people on the left, tribalism. There's people finding fault with everything, and there's problems with it. I don't know what the problems are, but there are definitely problems with the current political, socio-economical landscape, maybe. And I just have to focus on the podcast and enjoy the podcast, but none of the conversation topics filter down into into my mind. I don't remember any of it. I've listened to hundreds of hours of various intellectuals talking about this and that, and so interesting and brilliant to listen to, but how much of it actually goes into my mind? What you can read my book. Yeah, it's just something that I'm really grateful of. Is the time in my life now is I have a sense that I have a life, and I have a sense that I am a person. And I'll be honest, sometimes I had this work which was good, very happy about it. It was difficult, and it was difficult to feel like a person. And I think a lot of work is like that, feeling a sense of difficulty to feel like a person. And now that I've took the time in between my job and my being a student at college, I'm writing a book, I'm listening to podcasts, and things genuinely seem to be good, and I can actually think about stuff, and it's just having the space and time to feel like that you can think about stuff and you can legitimately have thoughts. And I'll say it again, writing this book is just, there's so much to my mind that I haven't even thought about, and it's so interesting, and you don't realise until you sit yourself down and lay it all out, just what you actually think about life and stuff. Sounds like a cracker of a book, but yeah, it's just just an interesting mix between doing productive stuff and not doing productive stuff, and less often than usual I have less productive stuff to do. So what I've done is I've made myself something productive I can do, like write a book. It's really made myself feel like I've got something to do, I've got purpose, and I've got a reason to do stuff in the day. And then when I've done stuff, there's a sense of just, yeah, I've done that, well done. It's just a sense of fulfillment. And I got that doing work. Going to work, I had a sense of fulfillment. Yeah, I've done a day, and it was all about the time. And I could feel like I was always doing stuff, and it made me feel good about myself. So writing this book just really gives you something to do, and if you have a target every day of 1,000 words, it just makes you feel really, really happy that I've got something that I like doing. So yeah, all things considered, I think it's a real treat. So I get to write books, I get to focus on things that I find interesting, and I must admit there are times where I think I have to do this one thing, but I think life is always like that. You've got to do stuff. There's stuff that you have to do, and you might not want to do them, but you have to do them. And I've reached a point where the stuff that I have to do is less, and the stuff that I want to do is more. And I want to get to a stage where I really feel useful and I feel productive, and I enjoy the parts of the productivity, because I actually like writing this book about an unbelievable God, just being brutally honest and just being able to say whatever I like, and without any holding back, and there's no one to stop you from talking, and you just really lay it all out on paper, you know, on the document, Word document, Google document. So yeah, there's that as well. So I think my place in society will be somewhere in between working and what I do in my spare time. I really want what I do in my spare time to be something meaningful, and like if I actually had like a podcast where I could sit down and actually talk and really feel like I'm doing something and it's worthwhile and I have an audience, then I think I can really feel like a multifaceted being and that I matter. And I do feel like that from time to time. And there's times where I felt really useful and good. Like when I was studying maths, I felt good at maths. That was a real good thing. But yeah, apart from that, when I'm not studying maths or something like that, it's nice to feel good about stuff, to feel useful. And I think that's probably the most valuable part of my degree, will be feeling useful and just getting work done, and that different aspect of the work-life balance where you actually enjoy what you do and you actually can focus and learn stuff. I think that's a real valuable asset. So when I go and do my degree, I can learn and I can enjoy stuff. And I did a whole job that didn't have that just essence of feeling like you learning and everything. And I'm really valuing my job and I'm really pleased about it. But having a student lifestyle just makes things easier, you're in a position of learning. There's not a pressure of responsibility. All that but you burden on yourself is to improve your what you burden on yourself is to improve your own learning, and everything is focused on your own development and your own progress rather than it focusing on how productive you are. And you're more than just I'm getting so hot. You're more than just a byproduct of what you do. You're actually like an entity that you can develop and become a better person, and it really helps to have things like that. Learning environment is just so much better than like a working environment, in my opinion. And I will hope that my learning environment can be just as good as my working environment when my learning environment can always continue, and I can just continue to learn and feel good about the value that I hold and feel like I'm going somewhere rather than stagnating. And I just think it's a real fortune to be in a position where you can learn and you can study. And I'm going to really value that because I think it's a great thing to be doing, to be learning and to always feel good about yourself. So I've had a good evening in the live chat, which is good. Making super duper hot. I should turn the heating off. I'll just put on some interlude, some music while I turn off the heating because it is ridiculous. I'm just going to turn the heating off because it's getting silly. Yes, I'll be back in 10 seconds after I should put some music on, and I'll be back shortly. Hello. I just found out that the heating isn't on apparently. As a lie, if I was ever to have a lie, it's just the heating's not on. So what I suppose is that when I look at the my life and having a life plan and going to university and studying, that makes me feel really content about my situation. And the last time I felt content about my situation, I'm not sure if I ever have, because when I have been pleased that I'm studying, it's all I've ever known, because at the end of my schooling years, I'd been in school the whole time, so you don't really appreciate how good you have it. But after working for a little bit, you realise that the pressures of work aren't there, and learning is just such a privilege, and I'm going to be learning all the time. So I'm really pleased about that, and long may it continue, I think, for 3 years, and then hopefully I can be in a job where I can continue to learn, continue to better myself, feel like a valuable entity, and really make life more interesting. So I want my work to be a valuable entity, but also want what I do outside of work to be a valuable entity, and it's getting that meaning wherever you are, getting that meaning at home, getting that meaning at work. So things that I can do to get that meaning at home is to write a book like I'm doing, and hopefully I can get positive responses from people that like reading the book, and that will make me feel good about my ideas and everything. And also I want to have a podcast and have guests on the podcast, and hopefully when I make some friends at college I can have guests, and the frame of the camera can be like zoomed out a bit more. I'm not sure if that's possible, but they can sit right next to me and we can, well, it's possible. They can sit right next to me and we can talk about stuff over the side of the microphone. And but I think I might just stick to myself at the moment, because that's really one of my only options, unless I get some teddies to start existing. And teddies exist, but talking to a teddy is not as interesting as talking to a person. So yes, having that life-work balance is a real valuable entity, and having the podcast and having my book, and that be my personal accolades, personal passion projects, whatever you call them, and then work hopefully will be interesting, and hopefully things will all work out with work and with what I do at home. So that's my life. It's going fairly well. There are sometimes things I have to do, and I don't necessarily want to do them, but I try my best and I do them, and I have a lot of free time. So I'm writing a book and I'm listening to podcasts, and I'm quite pleased with how my day goes. So I think that's useful, and what I can take from that is that I can just really explore different avenues of thought from this podcast. So we'll think of a conversation topic. I think my book is obviously about God and the existence of God, and also how people interact with God and stuff. And that is really interesting, because there's this whole play of how you interact with God, and there's a whole set of norms among believers that people don't ever think to question, and they don't ever think about why they believe in such things, because there's a whole form of etiquette within church, and people act in the same ways, and there's this sort of like this storyline that you can follow, and I find it so limiting, because there's this Messiah and your sins get saved, and what I've talked about in the book is that on a day-to-day basis I don't feel like I'm doing that much bad. I don't feel guilt. I just, I go about my day, I speak to people, I try to be nice and stuff. I don't recall a time or place where I sinned against humanity. And yeah, I make mistakes sometimes, but I really don't do anything worthy of judgment. I'm really not a very consequential person. I don't know, I watch podcasts, watch YouTube videos, write a book. What do I do that's sinning? But from a Christian perspective, every person sins all the time. I'm such a bad person, I need to be saved, I need all this, and this is the narrative that's being followed by people in the church, and it's the norm, it's the custom. You get saved for your sins. It's like, this is not coming from a place of arrogance. This is just me thinking I'm not a very consequential person, that I actually do that much to anyone. How am I sinning? Like, the last time I sinned from like feeling guilty It's been weeks. I'm not Jesus, but I'm not sinning. It's just I just do stuff. I get up, I have breakfast, I write my book, I make lunch, I make tea, I watch podcasts, I just do my day. I drive to the garage like I am tomorrow to get my MOT. Like, what am I doing wrong? Why do I need salvation all the time? Like, I'm not a drug lord. I'm not a criminal. I'm just a 22-year-old person that likes hugging teddies and living at home. I don't sin. I don't think so. It's really an unpopular. Pardon me. It's really an unpopular stance to take in the church. Like, what if you go to the front and say, I don't sin. Like, I don't think I need punishment or redemption. I don't think I need to apologise for anything. I'm pretty happy with how my day's gone. Like, maybe I've said the wrong thing like this time last month and I apologise to that person, but I just don't feel like an overriding deity to condemn us all and to intervene and to save your soul so that you can save other people's souls. What is it about? It's crazy. It's just a religion. It's just a set of ideas that has worked for many years to keep on carrying on the crazy mantle of this crazy set of ideas. And this is really the part of my book is I'm very generous with the notion of God, and I take the Christian side a lot, but there are some things that I'm just full deep and just say things like I don't really sin. Not to my knowledge, I just don't feel guilty and stuff, and just really honest, brutal things that you don't hear people talking about in church. It's not even taboo. It's just from their point of view, it's a sin to talk about how you actually feel. Because I think at church you've got how the church operates and how you're meant to believe in God and how you're meant to be saved and all these prayer and all these ideas, and they're like self-containing, and you've got this bubble that's been going for hundreds of years and has just been complete arbitrary laws set in sand, and you've got that entity, the church entity, and then you've got the people entity, and people try and merge themselves with the church entity and hold these ideas and actually believe them, when in actual fact none of this makes any sense, and what people actually feel is complete rubbish. And there isn't the church doesn't encourage you to express yourself, and there should be freedom in how people think and how people operate, and there should be freedom in to think about ideas and to share them. And we could develop some kind of church which isn't based on this crazy set of ideas that's been passed on by people we've never heard or spoken to. We could have a church environment which encourages freedom of expression, encourages thought development, and you can actually grow. And there's a blatant contradiction between growing in faith when actually you're just basically on a sinking ship trying to dish out water into the ocean of craziness to stop sinking, and you have to just keep on saying sorry and keep on shoveling the water out of the ship, sinking ship, and you just keep on doing the manual labour of the Christian ethics and just keep at it, and you call it growing in faith when actually you're staying afloat for even longer just to be a Christian, and you're not growing in faith, you're just growing in nothing. You're just stagnant. What you believed when you became a Christian is the exact same belief when you're about to die and you've been a Christian your whole life. And the in-between phase is just a trying to lie to yourself and trying to believe other people's beliefs, and any deviation from that is your own fault. So you better go back and say sorry for it and be saved. And sin is just basically this coping mechanism to keep on coming back to the ideals of the church. I don't know what I'm saying. So, that's basically my book. To be honest, my book is like that was like one paragraph of my book, and my book is just crazy. It goes all over the place. It's from this to this to this to this. I don't even remember what I've written. The paragraphs don't lead to another. But yeah, that's me ranting about church, which is very easy to do. And the more you think about it, the more you realise there's more to rant about. But church is very restricting and bottlenecks your ability to rant about stuff. And the good Christian is the gullible Christian, really. And there are some things that annoy people, annoy everyone. And one of the things is saying that the preach of the church is God's word. No, it's not. It's this half-baked attempt to continue talking for half an hour. It's podcast inferiority. Like, it's not as good as a podcast, but it's just one person speaking about stuff they read earlier in the week and just continue talking. And the amount of the words they fit into the time, like, is nowhere near the amount of words you could fit, like me ranting on about it. But and it's God's word, apparently. I don't think the preachers think it's God's word, but it is. We'll listen to God's word later on. So the Bible's God's word. The people within the church can speak God's word. You can pray to God, I suppose. It's all of this craziness, and my book is just really, it's not too outlandish, but it's just really just being honest. And a big part of me believes that there is a God, so a lot of it is just quite biased towards the God thing. But whenever I stumble across Christianity, I'm just brutal. Sometimes I don't have a paragraph in my book that says, do you know what, Christians are really good. They're just on the money. So I just think there needs to be something more the confines of religion or a particular set of beliefs. You just need to be able to grow and legitimately think aloud and collaborate and have community where you can think about God and you can question your beliefs and you can believe what you want. There shouldn't be a rigid structure in place where you have to believe the certain set of principles to even be listened to. Like, no one goes out of their way and becomes a member of the church and gets into leadership. No one does that freely, really. They just do it because they've managed to convince themselves that it's all real. It takes a special kind of person to believe in everything that the church and the Bible does. And those special people they're at the front preaching their half-baked attempt at a good podcast, which is also God's word. Like, if God had word, it would be at least like a podcast or something, surely. Like, imagine if if I created the universe, I would have a weekly podcast from the creator of the universe, and the deity of it, the god of existence. Like, I'm not saying God's doing it wrong, but instead of getting some middle-aged men stumbling along lying to themselves thinking they can hear God and interpret him, and then speaking on a Sunday, instead of that, I think there should be just this link or this app where you can just listen to God speak for 2 hours to keep us in touch with what's really there. But instead it's just it is what it is, really. It's just it's just what the church does well is it keeps people living harmoniously and keeps people with meaning and purpose, and it keeps people with something to identify with, and it continues through the generations, and people can just continue believing in stuff which is hard to believe in. Do you know what? There's miracles, and then there's people who actually think that the miracles are true. That is just the more miraculous thing. It's just because if I actually saw a miracle, I wouldn't believe it. If it actually happened, if I saw someone come back from the dead, I wouldn't go tell someone. The miracle is when people think they can actually believe in the miracles and tell people about it. Just like feed the 5,000. It's like, where's the praise for Lidl's? Not only are they feeding millions in many countries, they've got a variety of food. They've got bread, and they've got fish, and they've got everything else you want to eat. There's no praise for feed the millions of people like Lidl do at a reasonable price. There's no praise for that. But just blimey miracle how people couldn't believe something so truly that happened not in their lifetime, and it's just being grandfathered into the religion. And that's a term, to grandfather something in, is for something to be created and passed on without ever being connected to the source of the thing of the idea or something. It's being grandfathered in. So you don't talk to your grandfather, you don't know where he got his ideas from, but he passed them on to you. So yeah. So that's a little bit about my book, and that's what I spent my time writing about. Most of it is about whether God exists. I don't get into the religion side of things. I haven't said that much. All I've said is that Christians have a sense of arrogance, that they can interpret the will of God and stuff, and that's all I've said. It's just that I've said that. What did I say today? I said that Christians are Christian. They believe in God for selfish reasons. They want to go to heaven. They want to live good and moral lives. They want to have a connection with God. It's all self-centered. And I talked about how the Christian has an ego, and thinking that they have like a connection with God and stuff, and to think that they're doing it for a reason greater than themselves, when it's all self-interested, is like just only elevates that ego to a place that's just unsubstantiated. I don't know what I'm saying, but I say stuff in the book and it sounds good. It's not a book yet. It's just a blank Word document that's got some of the pages filled in, you know. Yeah, I got a lot more to write. But I'm starting, you know. That's the essence of it, really. I've started writing my book, so hopefully one day I'll finish the book. I'll finish the book on the 26th of April, and I'll publish the book soon after. I realised I was going to do a public, advertise the book, and there was this website that did it, but I looked at the reviews for the website and it was fake, so it didn't really work, or wasn't very good. So there is internal advertising you can do within the Kindle store, so I might do a bit of that. Pardon me, word of mouth. I could. Do you know what would be my aspiration? Would be to write a book and for people to read it and to become an author, and then do a sermon, preach at the church. I just think that'd be great. I could say what I like. I wouldn't get a praise the Lord, amen. I wouldn't get that, would I? What would I talk about? How I bet Jesus had clean feet. For someone who doesn't wash his feet himself. I don't know. I don't know what I'd say. Something sensible. I talk about. I'd take a story from the Bible, and I would take a story from Islam, from the Quran, and I would compare the two, and then conclude that the Quran had it a tiny bit better. So, or I'd do a whole sermon based on a passage from the Quran, and then tell them at the end that was from another religion, and you should think again about being a Christian. I know, maybe I shouldn't do a sermon or preach. I don't think I'm in the right mindset to help people in their search for Christianity. But maybe if I had a book, I could be the local author, and I can refocus my efforts on the on what's at hand and stuff like that. I don't know what I'm saying. Yeah, so would I preach? I'm writing my book. I'm going to mention my book every podcast for the next. When will I? If I finish my book, will I ever stop talking about it? Probably. I'm probably going through a phase where I'm talking about my book while I'm writing it, because I keep on needing to motivate myself about the book. But when I finish the book, I won't talk about my book anymore, because it'll be done. But then I'll be talking about, oh, hey, look at this. Somebody read my book and they liked it. Why did I think I could write a book? I don't know. I just think I could, and I did. I started writing it. I suppose that's how books get written. People think that they can write books, and then they start writing the book, and then one thing leads to another, and you've written a book. It's just preposterous. Silly. Yeah, but oh well. Gives me a sense of purpose and stuff. So we talk about the coronavirus. The latest update is probably don't go to church or something because of the coronavirus. But I need to go to church so I can get my research. Yeah, I can keep in touch with the book that I'm writing about God. Yeah, but I wrote 1,000 words today, which is pretty good. Yeah, I just sit down and write as much as I can and hope that it's enough. Liverpool can win the Premier League without touching the Premier League football again. All they need is Man City to win their next 2 games, and then they'll have won the league. Or if Man City if Man City draw both their games, or win one and lose one, and then Liverpool win the next 2 games, Liverpool win the league. Or Liverpool could win the league at Man City. They're basically going to win the league soon. It's getting to a stage where they only need 2 more wins out of the next 9 games, which is fairly doable considering they win prolifically. But it might be that they win a lot of games and they beat this is Liverpool, the team I support, and they beat the points total. So I think if I consider how my life can be most meaningful, writing a book that people read, that is pretty meaningful, and it will last longer than I'm alive, which is pretty cool. You can't say that about much else, having an influence on the world after you die. That's pretty cool, having a book that people can read even in 100 years. And it can be like a old text that people read as a reference to life and God and everything. You don't know. Like, I could be here sitting on a thing of gold, so that can add meaning to my life. But what else I think could add meaning to my life is making sure artificial intelligence is created in a way that doesn't kill humanity, because that is a very real danger. What Elon Musk thinks is that we need to connect humans to the computer, increase our bandwidth, so have connections inside our head connected to our brain, linking us up to fast communication and fast bandwidth, so we can merge with the artificial intelligence so we don't become obsolete and negligible. Because what could happen is that the artificial intelligence becomes so prominent and powerful that we just become a byproduct of killing humans, like stepping on ants, but worse, because we'd be the ones being trodden on, so to speak. So there's that to think about. So I would like to create artificial intelligence, and the funny thing is the degree that I'm doing is actually the right degree to do for that purpose. It would be to software development, coding, and that's all to do with artificial intelligence's code. And the end product for artificial intelligence is to be able to improve its own source code, which would mean that it could continue to get smarter and smarter, which would be really good. So yeah, and I think, because I've heard people say that the people who create artificial intelligence, they need to be well versed in morality and what matters. And I think with all the podcasts and Jordan Peterson and Sam Harris, Ben Shapiro, Joe Rogan, all those people I listen to, I have a grasp on what's a good idea, what's not a good idea. And the problems we find in humans could be corrected for in AI. And if I'm part of the creation of AI, then I could be a significant part of existence, that we got the AI right. And that's a possibility. I could do that. So that's quite a big aspiration, and it's something I could do in my working life. The sky's the limit, really. So yeah, and that's the thing that I didn't feel like I could do with my current job, that if I just carried on, I'd just do working life, I would earn a living and I'd get by, and I do my 9 to 5, 5 days a week for 45 years, that'd be it. That would be my life. And then I look forward to my retirement, like looking forward to when you're old. Like, what was that even about? So being able to have aspirations and having abilities to do something meaningful in your lifetime, I think is really important. And so, yes, I think I have my career can lead to something important for mankind, and hopefully I can also find meaning in writing my book. And I don't know whether I'll write another book. I might do. I'd have to think about what to write about, but writing one book is, one more than most people. And writing no books is one less than an author. You're only one book away from being an author. And that's not in my book. But yeah, I talk about my book quite a lot. Yeah, just for those interested, that also on my podcast, I the Peter Repeater, I talk, what it's in the name, isn't it? I repeat myself. I'm a broken record. Like, if I'm not talking about my work or what I'm doing at school, and if I'm not talking about that, I'm talking about my book or what I'm listening to, or Jordan Peterson. Like, I go through phases. My current phase is a book phase, and that's okay. I just hopefully be content with what I'm doing, and I'll be able to have a good day tomorrow. And I think once I've done tomorrow, I'm not a big fan of driving. I don't know what it is. I got nervous in my driving lessons, and that has translated itself onto driving in general. So I get nervous about driving, so even driving short distances, because I don't like the risk that if you get it wrong, you crash. I don't like that, because I like to be able to, like, I get stuff wrong all the time. And so if you just did a turning at the wrong time, when there wasn't a space and you weren't thinking about it, you just crash. I don't like the risk involved. And yeah, so I'm a pretty pants driver, but I passed my test, so I can drive anywhere. I've got a car, so I can do all the driving. Great for someone who doesn't like driving. I just suppose it makes me a more capable human being. But like, I can just imagine myself when I've got children and they want to go swimming. I'm like, nope, I'm not driving you. There's a big roundabout before the swimming. Like, I'll get over it. Maybe I won't. Some people never learn to drive, so I'm slightly better than that. I've got a license, so I can drive, even if I spend my life choosing not to drive. You have to drive sometimes. You have to drive to the doctors, you have to drive to the garage, you have to drive to do the shopping. You have to drive sometimes. So it's unavoidable. And it's better than not being able to drive at all. So, yeah. I noticed that the quality of my setup, when it goes onto the internet, it's not 100% the same quality as my camera, but what am I meant to do about that is it works. It could have so easily not have worked. It worked first time. Like, I've said this before, but it is the Peter Repeater. Like, the gaming that I was doing just wasn't working, and I spent hours playing games and people were watching, and it wasn't working at all. And then this this podcast it just worked first time. I did a test, but it just worked well, and I'm pleased about the result of the podcast situation. So hopefully, I've got a YouTube. This is not leading on from hopefully, but I've got a YouTube Premium subscription, which means I can listen to YouTube videos in the background, when the screen of your phone or tablet is turned off. So I can listen to podcasts on YouTube, but not everyone can. So most people have to watch the video, which isn't like the end of the world. Because when I watch podcasts, I just watch the video. Because what you meant, if you try to do games at the same time, the podcast itself just doesn't sink in, so it just doesn't get into your mind. You the words just flow over you and you don't pay attention. So watching the video, at least you get to sit down and it works, you know. So I think at the hour mark, I will take a 5-minute break to be back for a little bit more. I don't have any sponsors as of yet. I don't know how many sponsors would be interested in this particular venture of advertising to my growing audience. Probably not yet. I'd like to not have sponsors because I think they ruin things. But if I did have a successful podcast, I might have sponsors. So I'm not going to have a sponsor when I go out and have a break. But what I will have is I'll put some music on. Yeah. So I like the setup. It's quite a good setup. Like, things work quite well. I've got an HDMI grabber. Otherwise, I'm not sure how I'd get it to work, to be honest, with my camera. I just use like a webcam, which would be low quality, to say the least. And at least this way I'm not looking at a screen the whole time. I'm just looking at the camera. So, well, I'm not looking at the camera, looking at my screen of me. But yeah, I can feel like I'm just talking in my room, which I am, which is pretty cool. To think this is how I choose to spend my time. Like, I think it's great. It's just a level of excitement of having your hand in your shirt, and just a level of excitement of just going live on YouTube. Even with like no one watching, it's on YouTube forever. Or if you keep it that, but just like a moment of history, and I think it's pretty cool. So topic of conversation, artificial intelligence. I talked a bit about simulation theory yesterday. Like living a long time. Oh, wait a second. Yeah, living a long time. Sometimes we just take our health for granted, and we think about the particulars of our life. We think about our job. We think about school, and we think about our life, and our life isn't like. And we think about our qualifications. We don't think about our life in the way it actually is. We don't think that that it actually is a temporary situation that's not going to last forever. It's like so fragile and volatile, and we're going to die, and one day we won't be here, and for most of existence we won't be part of it, which is a scary thought, and yet we do exist. And this is the thought that bothers me, is, do we ever not exist? Because the only time when we are aware of existence is when we are alive, and we do exist, and we've no concept of what it was like before we exist or after we exist. We just have the existence. So can you even conceptualize not existing? Does that ever exist? Because we will die, but we won't be there to notice it. So I think there's just one option. It's not a state of existing, not existing. It's just existence. That's it. Because nothing else makes sense. So that's a weird concept of existence. And being alive is just intertwined, and it's just a unique situation, and the fact that we're alive now is inevitable because that's what you have to be to conceptualize being alive now. It's a necessity of itself, meaning it only exists in itself, being alive now. That's all there is. So is it strange that we're alive now? But no, because that's all that ever is, being alive now. Because what we experience now, being alive, is exact same what they experienced 1,000 years ago, being alive. But they're dead, we're alive, they're not alive anymore. So we kind of die, but also we never do, because we're never dead, because we can never be something when we don't exist. So we live forever? No, we live a short amount of time, and my curtains are creating funny pictures on the display. Oh well. But yeah, it's just was it a shadow? I don't know. Anyway, you can't get everything perfect. I can sort out the background in my new podcast studio when I've got my own space and stuff, and if I look at the curtains all the time, it just looks funny. I think it's my TV screen. I just won't look at the curtains. Anyway, so basically this setup is pretty good and I can keep on talking. But what I am going to do is take a break, and I'll take a 5-minute break now, and I'll be back. I'll put on some music for you for your waiting. I'll be back in 5 minutes, so around about 7:45 I'll be back. Just need to do stuff. Okay, be back soon. Yeah, okay. Okay. Sorry if that was a bit loud. I hope it wasn't too bad. Okay, so I'm back for another another amount of podcasting. Back for an interlude, another session. Just thank you for those who have watched. I am pleased that you have been watching, and thank you for listening to me rant about stuff. It's been great. Just in case I don't get to say bye to those of you that need to go, I am happy. But for the minute, I'll just keep on talking until I can. Keep on talking until I can't keep on talking. So, what I have to say is I'm pretty happy about my life, but there are things that I think about, like the particulars of my life. Things that occupy my mind are not always how good my life is, but rather things that I'm worried about, things that I have to do, and things that I don't like doing that I still do. There's a real variety of things that happen and don't happen that occupy my mind, when really I should be able to relax and just be content, and when I have to do stuff, do it and not worry about it. Because just funny things like having to go shopping. Great. Okay. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, thanking the thank you people. Yeah, so just the little things like having to go shopping and having to when it's just a big deal for me at the moment, having to get into my car and do stuff is just really a difficult situation, having to drive and stuff. That can be hard, but in retrospect, actually, when I was working every day, the journey there and back wasn't a concern at all. Didn't bother me in the slightest. It was the work that was hard, but the rest of it was really easy. So I just think there's a natural thing that the more you do, the less of a problem the individual things that you're doing are. So I think when the more I do, the less I'll worry about the stuff. And it's been a long time since I've been doing homework. Oh, I did a lot of homework. Quite a lot of homework, really. I remember the results day when I did well. I said, oh, that was a lot of homework. And they said, oh, was it all worth it then? I said, oh, yeah, I suppose. I'm not sure if it was. There was a lot of homework. I did it all. I didn't like disappointing the teachers. And the funny thing is throughout my time, I didn't do all that homework. I didn't meet the demands of all the teachers that ever asked me. Some homeworks I just didn't do. And still, I got good results. I might have been the best student, but that did more homework than anyone else. And yeah, I didn't do all of it. So the teachers ask you to do stuff and expect it of you, and it's not even practically feasible that anybody does it all. I think that really is a test of how well you do at school, is how much homework you do. It's a test of how capable, how much you learn. The more homework you do, the better, really. Homework is a funny concept because school used to finish at like what, 2:45, and like work always finished at like 4:30, 4:45. So there was time in the afternoon that you could go home and do some work. But when you work 9 to 5 or whatever time frame you're doing, you do an extra hour and a half at the end of a long day. You just do an extra hour and a half and stay until 4:30. It's crazy what the actual world is like. So that's why I really want to do something that I enjoy. But I think it's funny that I used to do stuff with mouse and the keyboard, and my job after my degree that I'm putting lots of effort towards and I'll learn lots, it's going to be a mouse and keyboard again. I suppose you can't really say that all computer games on the PC are the same just because they all use the mouse and the keyboard. There's more variety in that because you've got the screen that can show different things. So it's more than just using mouse and keyboard. You can actually think about stuff and things can matter. But yeah, I'm just fairly happy that I've got time in my life that I can do things that I like, and I've been able to redirect what I'm doing as a career. I'm so happy I get to be a student again. I love being a student. I had a little taste of being a student when I did a 3-day course of doing functional skills ICT level 2 that I needed for my apprenticeship, and just even though it was boring, it was so much better than work. Oh, it was so good. Yeah, but not to worry about that. I just like learning. It's just a really valuable thing to do. I just really like learning. Now, and I think a true job like uses your mind, and I just think I want to be able to use my mind and learn stuff all the time, and become a useful person that can do stuff. And really, that's why they pay you, to be a useful person that can do stuff. So, all things considered, the Peter Repeater, I think it's a good name, the Peter Repeater. Yeah, so I'll just keep at it, at the Peter Repeater, and see what comes of it. You know, probably nothing, but not to worry. What is nothing, you know? What am I expecting? There's no end goal. I was just pleased to have the free time to sit down and talk. And it's sort of to myself, but it's also to YouTube and people watching. So it's not totally to myself. So I'm pretty pleased about that. And I've got this set up, and it's a little bit zoomed out more than last time, which I think is a more humane version of things. Makes more sense to see more of the person rather than just their face. I really want to make friends. To have friends, you often need like a context where you're doing the same thing, where you've always got a reason to see the person and you don't have to get out of your way to see people. Just having friends in a context of school or university, I'm just really looking forward to it. I hope that, and there will be like-minded because they're doing the same course as me. So hopefully, I'll like one of them, and we can be friends, or like two of them, and then I can have guests on my podcast, and we can talk about stuff. It's so much easier to talk about stuff than you think because there's an effect. I'll explain the effect where something seems impossible until you actually sit down and do it. Like writing a book just seems impossible. It just seems I have nothing to say. What can I say? Speaking English is one of those things. How can I speak? What do I do? And also doing a podcast, I've got nothing to say. How can I speak all this time? But when you actually sit down and do it, the words flow out your mouth and it just works. And how Joe Rogan, a famous podcaster, has done well over 1,000 over an hour long podcasts, and he's always had stuff to say. He's never run out of stuff to say. And I just think it's like this, speaking to myself, but it's easier because you've got two people speaking to each other. So that's where I want to go in maybe, in the future, invite a friend around to play some games and to do a podcast. Yeah, I know, just do a podcast would be great. And Peter can continue, and I can have guests, and I don't know if that will happen. It's just an idea. I'd like to have some guests. I keep on having guests until I get to the stage where I can have celebrity guests. This is maybe like 5 years' time if I keep at it, I don't know if I will or not. But I've got no constraints. Like, I don't have to do this every day. I can take time off because it's not called daily. Gamecast Daily was my thing for a while. And yeah, so I can just be a little bit more relaxed about it and keep it going. And just accept that I can thing that I don't do is look into the lens of the camera, but it seems a bit strange to look into the camera. So I've talked about some good stuff, interesting stuff. I could talk about the events of the world, what I really think about stuff. I think university is the idea of going somewhere and studying something without knowing what job you're going to do. I think is a little bit redundant, and I think that they should really figure it out and make it possible to only study stuff that's useful for a particular job, because that's what I'm doing. I'm going to be a software developer, so I'm studying software development. It's very simple. And just going to university and doing a maths degree or English degree and not knowing what job you're going to do, but just working hard for the sake of it, I just find that strange. I think it's useless. I think there is a sense that going away to university is good for the person, but I think it's a waste of time. And there's this whole thing of feeling like you're better because you've got a degree. When you actually get what you want, it doesn't make you feel better that much at all. The thought of getting something like qualification is so much better than the reality of getting it. Because what motivated me to get the qualifications I have is the thought of having it, and then when I actually have it, it's a bit blasé and it's not that good. It's probably a bad thing to say, if I'm honest with you. So I don't know if it's really good to look in the camera and stuff. Surely I can think of something to talk about. So there's my life. I've got 6 months before my degree starts, And really, it's about keeping myself sane and having it all together in a bag in one place. Like probably a high visible bag. A bag with high visibility so you can see the bag and it's firmly on your straps and you've got that little clip around your waist and all my life's problems, all of it will be together. It will all be together in one place on a high vis backpack, good for a hike or good for a walk or something. And it'll all be together in one place, and I go cycling, I go hiking, I go walking, and all my stuff will be on my backpack. It will all be in a bag, all of it in a bag. All of it, I'll have it all together. My life will be together in a bag. That's the aim. That's the real aim, and part of that is coming up with things to do. So after I've written my book, I will do coding, and I will learn coding, and then I think I will also have the ability to like do some projects with the coding, and then maybe hopefully I find a job in the summer. That would be good, find a job, and I'll have all of May, June, July, August to do coding and to find a job. If I don't have a job, my degree is like the course is 3 days a week at college, so you have time to do other stuff, so you can have a job for 2 or 3 days a week as well as the degree. It means you do lots of work, but because part of the course is to actually have a job, and you need a job to fulfill elements of the course, so that's good because then I'll be earning money. I've actually started thinking about money less. I think the thing that keeps me from thinking about money is the not checking my bank account and not spending money, because when I'm not spending money and I'm not thinking about how much money I've got left, money has a less of a grasp on my life, which is pretty good, because I think money is an unhealthy obsession. So I think I need to think long and hard before I get rid of money, because having enough money means you don't think about it. You don't have to think about it, you don't have that burden. So maybe I should think I need to have enough money, which is okay, but I'm just not sure if I can physically cope. I can watch my laptop, which was a cheap laptop, but it's not the highest resolution, not full HD, and even though if I thought it was full HD, wouldn't notice. The screen looks good, it looks fine, but I've just got it in my mind that I could be watching full HD, and it bothers me deeply. I've got a real problem for quality, full HD, and it's not so that it's a really good quality, it's just knowing that you've got the best quality. There's something satisfying about it, knowing that there isn't a better quality that you're gonna have. Like my YouTube setup, I need to know that I've got the best quality. And to be fair, the microphone isn't the best quality, but the sound environment isn't like perfect. My microphone isn't perfect, but it's good enough. You can hear me, so that's all. Yeah, so just having because I know if I get what I want, I think what I'll do, this is the plan. If I get a job, I will buy a nice laptop. If I get a job, because the prospect of a job means you've got an income and you've got money, and without a job you need money. So here I am thinking about money when I'm trying not to. So I think that's got to be it. Even though I want to just get a laptop. It's hard. I live a hard life. Write the book first. It's going to be so long before I get the job. Oh, well. Wait a second, I'll just get the other battery. Okay, I'm still here. Just see if I can continue this podcast. It'd be nice. Great, and we're back. So yeah, it's just I say we're back. Things aren't perfect. So that was pretty good. So basically the battery completely runs out, and then I have to trade it for another battery, which is okay, I suppose. It's not perfect, but what we're meant to do. Yeah, so I was talking about money, the grasp it has my life. I just have to keep it. That's not what I want, but if I want to be free from thinking about it, I just have to keep it, which is annoying. Because I know that if I ran out of money and I was always stuck with trying to budget and I just didn't have enough money, I'd be always thinking about money and I couldn't get away from it. And it would be like a necessity to think about it. But if I actually have enough money, then it leaves me in a position where I don't have to think about it. So it's important to keep it. Yeah, so I just have to keep it, and I'll have to cope with not having a high definition podcast. I just have to cope. It is possible to cope in this day and age. Like, the definition is far better than 20 years ago. It wasn't, there wasn't something like that existed, but I just have to make do with the quality of the screen. I could just watch it on my tablet. That is a possibility. I don't have to watch stuff on my laptop, but it just fits so nicely on my lap. Yeah, we'll think about that, because my tablet is high definition, but the laptop just fits so nicely on my lap and it works so well. That's why I want a high definition laptop. Okay, what we'll do is we'll try and get a job. So I've got two eventualities. This is me thinking about money here. Hold on. Two eventualities of when I can buy myself a laptop legitimately. Eventuality number one is when I earn enough money from my book to get the money for the laptop, which would be great. So that's eventuality number one. Eventuality number two, where I can legitimately buy a laptop without being bad about it, is if I get a job, because then I have an income. So that would do two things. It, one, encourages me to write a good book, and two, encourages me to get a job. So this laptop, instead of being something that empties my bank account, it can be a motivating factor to get a job or to sell lots of my So I think, yeah, so I think I need to keep that, having something to motivate me. It's really valuable, I think. But it's annoying because I just want to have a high definition laptop straight away, but I'm just going to have to settle with, finding a job and stuff. But I could do coding so much better. Oh, write a book that sells, or, get a job. It's like I had a conundrum where I wanted a camera and I also wanted a car, and I waited until I failed my driving test and then I bought a camera, and I had to save up for the car again. But that was okay. Yeah. So it's not such a predicament. Now I've got my camera, which is what I'm filming this bad boy on, and I've got my car, and I don't need a laptop. I can just make do, I suppose. I say that a lot. I say it when there's nothing else to be said. When I'm just like thinking, oh well, I suppose. I say that a lot. Another thing that I say is when I'm at a roundabout, I say give way to my right. Give way to my right, give way to my right, give way to my right, go. Because that's the rule of roundabouts, give way to your right. And if you don't remember that, then you get it completely wrong and, hit a car or something. Yeah, I've done roundabouts wrong and I've been beat up. That only happened once. Oh well. I wasn't thinking, I wasn't in the right headspace. Give way to my right, give way to my right, give way to my right, give way to my right. There's a queue behind me, and let's go. yeah, so it's pretty good, all things considered. I'm fairly happy. I think what I'll do, because my voice is getting a bit tired, I'll leave it there. Thank you very much for being part of this podcast, and I hope that I can do another one another day. You've been listening to the Peter Repeater, and I'll repeat myself some more another day, maybe tomorrow. Okay, thank you for watching. I'll just say good night, and I'll hopefully just leave it there. I'd keep on going, but my voice is starting to feel the strain, probably because I haven't got another person to speak to, just speaking all by myself. So yeah, said good night. Thank you for watching. It's been great. I will continue another day. Great. Bye for now.